Welcome to the final exam, question number 32. And it says select the incorrect statement. So we're looking for incorrect. R-R-E-C-T. Alright. Just to help us remember. And we're just going to go down and cross them off and try to explain as I've been doing in the past. Number 1, the greatest drying shrinkage in wood members occur in the longitudinal direction. If you go to page 42, second paragraph, it says the greatest shrinkage occurs perpendicular to the grain. And it says longitudinal, so therefore that is false. And that's not something that you can really justify. I would just remember that. Memorize it's perpendicular to the grain as opposed to longitudinal to the grain. Alright, number 2. Glued laminated members generally shrink less than sawn timber members. This is another one of those things you just have to memorize, and that's true. That glue lam beams will generally shrink less than the timber members. Alright, going on number 3. Shrinkage in wood is generally greater in heavier pieces than in lighter pieces of the same species. And that's another true that you just have to memorize. Number 4, shrinkage is usually greater in hardwoods than softwoods. And all this is in the this chapter. What chapter is that? Lesson number 3. So go through and read all this. I don't know if there's any other information that can really get you to where you have some intuition on this. I would say just you have to memorize it. So go through, read, and see what you think makes sense, and maybe try to justify it yourself. But number 4 is also true. And then number 5, expansion of wood members caused by temperature change is an important consideration in detailing of such members. And I know that is false. So we'll do that. And I do believe it says, actually since this is the answer, let me go find it. In the lesson 3. I know that steel and concrete have issues with, you have to consider that, and it's usually 1 inch per 100 foot, and don't quote me on that, it's like it always is. That's a general rule of thumb, and you have to go in there and actually use those thermal expansion coefficients and in equations and figure that out what it is, but that's just a rule of thumb once again, 1 inch per 100 foot. But when you're dealing with timber, you don't have to do it. Okay, here it is, 42, and on the third paragraph down it says, like other solids, wood expands on heating and contracts on cooling. However, its coefficient of thermal expansion is very low compared to that of other common building materials, which I'm guessing they're saying concrete and steel, and therefore can be neglected in most structural designs. And there may be certain instances where you have a huge, just a really, really large timber structure, and you might want to take that into consideration, but not typically. And just as engineers need to take a look and say, hey, will that ever affect it? Alright, so that's true, and then that's incorrect, and therefore it's our right answer. Let's go on to number 6. Where wood joists are supported from a steel beam by joist hangers, the tops of the joists, when installed, should be above the top of the beam to provide for shrinkage of joists. That's a long answer. Let's see if we can break it down. Where the wood joists are supported from a steel beam by joist hangers. Okay, that makes sense. So you have steel beam, and you have joist hangers. So this is in here, hanging somewhere. Obviously, this doesn't need to be exact. It might be up here, and the joist hanger comes over and hangs it. The tops of the joist, when installed, should be above the tops of the beam to provide for shrinkage of the joists. Shrinkage of the joists. So actually, they're saying if you're, let's say you're putting this down on a floor, they're saying this should be slightly above. So my instance was incorrect here, so we'll just get rid of that real quick. But it's saying to provide for shrinkage, you need to put that slightly above. You need to set it slightly above so you can deal with shrinkage. And I don't remember that in the study guide, and I don't know that off the top of my head because I don't deal with timber quite often, but let me take a look in the study guide and see if I can find that out. Well, without looking through the study guide, let's look at the answer and see if we can figure out just using A, B, and C. A, B, C, D. And let's cross out the ones we know aren't true. So we have 1 and 5, so we know B is wrong because it doesn't have 1. We know D is wrong. So we have 1 and 5, which that means 6 isn't correct, or 1, 4, 5, and 6. And we know 4 is true, so our answer is going to be C.